There's some people that need to understand there is a river. You don't have to live in ankle-deep water. Some are satisfied just to be in knee-deep water. I'm going to tell you right now, that's where the sharks can come up. Down in the Keys in Florida, they can take your leg off. But then there are those that are not content just to stay in knee-deep water. They're able to go ahead and launch out to waters to swim in. I want to tell you a story. Some have never heard it, some have heard it. It doesn't make any difference. I was preaching in the church here in 1994. It was late in the year. We had been in a move of God. A man walked in the back of the building. He had on a blue suit with stripes, pinstripes. We had pews in there because it was not a place where it was comfortable to fall in the spirit and hit one of those pews with your head. I've seen people's heads bloodied as they've fallen against pews. In the spirit, out of the spirit, I don't know. I don't know what God knocked out of them. But he walked right down the aisle like this. And as he walked down the aisle, he came to the front of the sanctuary. He stood as I was speaking about where I'm standing on a little step up. He turned and he walked this way. When he did, there was a stock pond of water that opened up. He took one step in. He was ankle deep. One step knee deep. One step waist deep, and waters to swim in. He took 3 strokes in, 3 strokes, swimming strokes, 3 strokes out. He walked over to this wall. I watched every move he made. Nobody else saw him, just me. He turned right here. He looked up at me and smiled. When he walked in, he was haggard. His hair was gray and white, but it was filthy, like he had never washed it. It was salt and pepper hair. His face was like a blade. He was ashen. He was absolutely famished. You could tell that he had been on the road. His collar of his white shirt was dirty. Around the collar, he had a blue tie with a little speck that went down it like little castles. Maybe you've seen them. His shoes were like shoes that you would have bought from Sears Roebuck that had laces and a seam down the toe. When he stood out of that water, what he had been, just like our sister that stood up there, was not the same. His hair sparkled. His teeth shined. They were radiant. They were like a television advertisement. I mean, his clothes were Martinized. Everything was pressed. His shirt was just exactly like he was on a red carpet somewhere. He had stepped out of a bandbox. He turned and he gave me a smile like this with a high five, and he turned and he walked right straight through this wall. And we had so many things happening when the river was flowing that people didn't understand it. Preachers would show up. Methodist preacher from Owensboro, Kentucky, running away from ministry, running away from family, just walking by, walking the street. He'd come in. As he would come in, he would find a move of God was going on. The night that he came in, the presence of God came on me, and I could not say a word. I got down and I started trying to talk. I fell under the power. Dan McCollum, who's prophetic, you follow his teaching, you'll be enriched by it. Dan McCollum was leading worship, and I was going like this. Dan came down, looked at me, and he said, he's given an altar call. And 20 people jumped up and ran to the front of this building and got right with God. That didn't happen once. That particular thing did. It happened every time we came into the house of God. because people got so hungry of just going through, having just an inoculation of religion, of doctrine. They wanted something more. I have never ever quit, never have stopped longing for something more. I have to say that I need something more.